This video is going to show you how a pivot table tagged as a cube works. Here is a pivot table which has calculations of salaries, number of employees, and average salaries. You notice there is a difference in concept between these two columns and this column. These are what is known as additive calculations. So the salaries for asset management female employees in this age group adds up to this. If I were to say, well, what is the value just for asset management females? The total of these would be shown because it's just additive. If I went to asset management completely, it would be this 2,725,000, which is the total of all of them. So these are additive, which means that at any level of the hierarchy, just adding them up will give you the correct answer. Same thing's true of employees. But average salary is a little different because average salary at this level is fine. But if I were to say only asset management females, the average of these averages is wrong. It's just not going to be right. And in fact, many times people are using those averages, and that is a fundamental problem. So what we've got to do is somehow create a way that when we publish this to Power BI, it will calculate correctly. Now, one way to do that is to go into Power BI or publish this and then go into the target file and add an average based DAX function like calculate X or calculate. And that is true, that'll work. But there is actually a simpler way to do it, which doesn't involve you creating any DAX. It's what's known as a cube data set. So if I go into here and I look at this, I have already created a data set out of this table. And it says cube dot. If I go edit, here's the name. And if I click on this ellipsis, I have chosen the cube option at the bottom. When I choose the cube option for a data set of a pivot table, very simply, it just calculates every conceivable value that could be used from this data and stores it in a table. It amounts to an OLAP table, which is why we called it a cube. And so when you ask for something at each level, it'll just give you the correct value, including the average salary for each of those levels. So when I publish this, you're going to get a few more records showing up in your table because you're going to have a record for each combination of the totals. And it's going to take a little longer. Now what we're looking at here is the finished dialog box. It says it's 67 records. At 67 is more than the original 40 because it's added records for each combination of the hierarchy. Let's go and look at this in the target file. And here is my table. If I go down to the bottom here, you'll see that it has added a value for each combination of the hierarchy. So it leaves these values null, these fields, and it has the calculation based on the combination of two nulls and the actual specific cohort. And this says this is all females, all males, blah, blah, blah. And then each combination in support of that is also in here. So let's look at this table in Power Pivot. When I go up to Power Pivot, this same table is here, and it is exactly the same except that it has our custom-made measures at the bottom. And these measures are specifically designed for a cube data set. So you can see that there's 4 levels. In this case, level 4 will only show you the grand total, which is all departments, all sexes, all cohorts. Level 3 will show you only individual fields like department, sex, and cohort on their own. And level 2 shows any combination of 2. And level 1 shows you all 3 axes, it'll just show the values because every single combination is in the table. And all we're doing is displaying that combination. Therefore, there's no calculation per se. It's just a presentation. If we go down and look at average salary, it's exactly the same. Now, the only thing I want to do is I want to now format these guys. So this is going to be formatted to 0 decimal places. This is going to be formatted to number to 0 decimal places. And average salary is going to be formatted also currency to no decimal places. So when I go back to the target file, I go to Excel Publish and I publish this. It publishes this to Power BI. Now what I've done is I've connected to these tables because I've shown you how to do that in other videos. So let's drag department out here onto our canvas and let's change this to a matrix and let's start fleshing this out. So we have department, we have sex, we have age cohort. But what it did is it put sex as a column, which can be done, but let's just not do that. Let's just put sex as a row. Now what you're looking at, because it's a matrix, is the highest level of our hierarchy. So if I drill down here at all levels, it will show me all the levels of this table. Now you end up with a bunch of spaces in there. That's because this is a cube function, but that will clean it up as soon as you put in your measures. So if I say I want to add the number of salaries, boom, it immediately gets rid of that DAX function, immediately gets rid of all the blanks and gives you the correct value for the particular level you're at. If I say number of employees and I say average salary, because of my formats, they're all formatted properly. And there they are showing up in my matrix. If I were to go up a level now, the measures that are created by Excel Publish are now calculating correctly, of course, the additive functions, but also recalculating the average, in this case for asset management overall, for females in asset management and males in asset management, etc. Because these are measures that we created using Excel Publish. Now remember, these DAX functions are actually just extracting the single value that matches each combination.